This week on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 14 Reunion Part 2.
And I know you're used to buying people and buying gifts and trying to throw it around, but Sutton, there's a lot more to life.
What are you talking about that I buy people? Who have I tried to buy?
What is up, everybody? Welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the second part of the reunion for Season 14. Let's get right into it. Alright, so part 2, we see Kathy Hilton and my fave Jennifer Tilly arriving to the studio. The other women are currently on their lunch break. Garcelle and Sutton are talking. Garcelle was really taken aback because I don't think she ever thought they were all going to come for her. I don't think she thought she was going to be in the hot seat. Sutton also, she says that she didn't realize Kyle would be that angry at them. So then they go back to continue filming the reunion. Andy says, Garcelle, was there something that you wanted to say? And Garcelle says, yeah, to Kyle. It sounded like you told me things off camera to shut me up. Kyle says, I told you things off camera in confidence because I wanted to get closer to you and I wanted to trust you and bond with you. Garcelle says, oh, okay. Now we all know Kyle. Okay, Kyle probably did want to shut her up because Kyle likes to control the narrative. But it was something about Morgan. To which Andy then says to Kyle, people are going to say, you're on a reality show. Why don't you want to share this? Kyle says that she's not willing to say anything about someone if it means it could affect them. Bo says, yeah, if you don't want to share, then you don't have to. You can stand on that. Andy brings up how Dorit said that Kyle had a different set of rules, one for her and one for the others. Kyle says, well, I feel like Dorit has different rules for me too. For example, she lets things slide with Erika, but not with me. Dorit says, no, you're the one that lets things slide. They then talk about this message from the last reunion that Dorit read on camera, where she thought Kyle was trying to shut her up. Dorit says that in regards to that situation, the camel that kind of broke the camel's back in their friendship was when Kyle was going around trying to diminish and downplay their friendship. Kyle says she was saying things because she was very bothered by some of the comments that Dorit was saying. For example, one time on Watch What Happens Live, Dorit said that Kyle had become closer to Morgan and that she kind of had distanced herself from Dorit. I don't really get why that comment is so bad to Kyle, but Kyle says that Morgan doesn't like to be mentioned. I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm tired of hearing about this. Why are we still talking about Morgan? Andy says, well, Morgan is a musician. She's a public figure. Kyle says, well, we all have different perspectives. And Andy calls her out. He's like, listen, you literally did a music video with Morgan where you played her lesbian love interest. You can't have your cake and eat it too. As far as Dorit and Kyle's friendship, they say that it's still a work in progress. So then they move on to discuss the Kyle and PK texting scandal of the season. So they take a look at the scenes from the season. It was definitely an intense storyline. So Kyle says to Dorit, I didn't really talk to PK. I did send him a text, but that was because y'all were going through the separation. Y'all had announced it. Even though Kyle herself has admitted to talking about him about other things. Andy says that the viewers all felt like her texting him was wrong. Erika says that she never thought it was anything inappropriate, like they were having an affair or anything like that. And Garcelle says, yeah, of course, nobody thought that. Everyone's consensus, though, is that when you say, quote, I'm never going to share anything you told me, it raises suspicions. Andy asks Kyle, if the roles were reversed, would it bother you if Dorit was texting Mauricio? And Kyle says, yeah, probably, but my intention wasn't bad. Dorit says to Kyle, you should have just abided by girl code and this would have all been fine. Kyle says, well, what about your girl code when you shared my message and you read it to Erika on camera? Dorit says, you gotta understand, I didn't think of us as friends at that point. You were not my friend in my mind. Kyle says, exactly. So if we weren't friends, then why would I tell you that I was texting him? Everybody was coming at me. These two who don't even like you said it was wrong. Bose told me to read it. It was a lot. Dorit says to Kyle, listen, your reaction was over the top. You could have just simply said to me, yes, I sent him a text after y'all separated. But no, you flipped out. Dorit also brings up a confessional where Kyle had said that PK had been a better friend to her than Dorit had. Kyle says that's just how she felt in the moment because they were just not in a good place and PK had been nice to her. Dorit's like, well, look at the contrast. Like, when you blew up at Bose's event, I still went to go check on you, even though we weren't on good terms. I just wanted to make sure that you were okay. Then Kyle's crystals, they kept falling to the floor. I don't know if that's a bad sign or I don't know what. Andy then brings up Bose calling Kyle a liar on a podcast that she was in a little bit ago. Bose says to Kyle, well, if you say I only texted him jokes and memes, but then we see that you texted him something else, that is a lie. So, like, yeah. Garcelle says to Kyle, look, if you would have just told us, yes, I talked a little-ish about Dorit to PK, we would have all understood it. Kyle says, well, I didn't. I only talked to him once about me and Dorit's friendship. Andy then asks Kyle if she has talked to PK ever since, and apparently she has. So again, another lie. Just be truthful. Like, be truthful the first time. That way you won't have to worry about the lies you've told before. But to wrap things up, Kyle says that she does love Dorit and she is willing to be friends again. Dorit says, let's get together, just you and I, no cameras, no one else. Kyle apologizes and they kind of made up. So then they are joined by Jennifer Tilly. They introduce her and they play back some of the scenes of the season, and Jennifer really was a breath of fresh air. She was really funny. So Andy reads her accomplishments. Jennifer says that she's always been a Housewife super fan. They talk about her fashion, her bags, particularly that Louis Vuitton boat that she had, which I definitely thought it was super cool. And they also talk about her great jewelry. The necklace that she is wearing on the cast picture photo shoot, apparently they're saying that it's one of the most important pieces of jewelry in the country. Dang. So, listen, she didn't want to say how much those Simpsons checks are, but just looking at her jewelry, we can tell it's a lot. Andy says that Jennifer was pretty much a neutral person all season, but she did throw some shade on the after show. There was particularly a comment she had said that she saw PK at some hotel place, but she did say, I don't know how he was there because it's kind of expensive. I don't know how he was able to afford it. Dorit then says, responding to that she's always been a fan of Jennifer's and she still wants to see her on the show, but seeing her in the after show make some of these shady comments made it seem like Jennifer had joined, quote, the Witches of Eastwick. Kathy Hilton then comes out, and I loved what she was wearing. They talk about her getting in the way of that model at Sutton's fashion show, and she says, oh yeah, I was stuck there because I was saying hi to Mrs. Girardi. We're like, who is Mrs. Girardi? She was talking about Erika's mom. So they're all like, no. Her last name isn't Girardi. So they're like, oh, Kathy says, I was talking to Mrs. Jayne. And they're like, no, that's Erika's stage name. Erika then says that her middle name is Nay. I want to know what her last name is, though, because she didn't want to say, like, her last name before Girardi. They joke about some lady in Italy telling Kathy that she's part Chinese, whatever that means. Andy says that Kathy had some shade this season. She threw some shade this season, and Kathy says, it might have rubbed off on her being with the group. But, like, some of the shade that she threw was saying that Mauricio looked like he could be Kyle's dad. And she had also said that PK looked 56 years old 10 years ago. She tries to explain that PK looked older back in the day because he looks younger now than he did before because he's lost weight and he stopped drinking. And Dorit looks young. So she kind of tried to clean it up a little bit. As far as Mauricio, she says that he does look like he could be Kyle's dad based on that one picture she saw of him and based on how Kyle looks now. So then Andy mentions a comment that Erika said on Watch What Happens Live. There was a question posed to her asking who sucks up the most to Kathy Hilton, and Erika's answer was Sutton, followed by Garcelle. So now here at the reunion, Garcelle asks Erika, like, why did you say that? Based on what? And Erika says, based on nothing. It's just my opinion. It's Watch What Happens Live. It's supposed to be shady. Andy then asks the sisters, the Richard, well, are they, well, you know what I'm talking about, Kathy and Kyle. He asks them about Kim, because apparently now she's living in Florida and she hasn't been doing well. Kathy says that she's doing okay. Kyle says that she's doing better than she was. Yeah, you can tell that she isn't great. So I feel really bad for Kim. So then last thing before this ended, they move on to Sutton and the drama with the group this season and her. So we look at some of those scenes. So Sutton says that her initial goal when she did the sister circle knot thing was because she wanted to be able to work, she wanted the group to be able to work through their problems and, you know, have conflict resolution and while still being able to remain friends. Andy then talks about the comment that Sutton made at Kyle's cowgirl party where she said to Dorit, "You're not angry at me, you're angry at your life." Bose at the time had said that Sutton was weaponizing Dorit's problems. Garcelle here is saying that Bose was overreacting. So Bose says, how was I overreacting? Sutton said what she said to hurt Dorit. Sutton says, no, I didn't. Dorit was screaming at everybody else that night. For example, she was cursing Camille like crazy. So Bose says to her, but that's not how you get someone to stop yelling. Sutton says, okay, I get it. Maybe I can learn from that. And Bose's like, yeah, you know, you're taking accountability right now. Andy then brings up the moment where Dorit was talking about her son and how Sutton cut her off in the middle of her sentence. Sutton says that it's because they had been there for a while and production had told her that they needed to go. Dorit says, so? I thought you were Mrs. Manners. Why didn't you do it in another type of way? Sutton says, okay, maybe I was wrong. Dorit then says to Sutton, you like, what's going on? You've barely said 2 words this entire reunion. Where is the mean Sutton from this whole season? Because this isn't you. Then they talk about Sutton's wallet comment, and everyone kind of agrees that they didn't like the comment, including Garcelle and Kathy. Sutton says, well, you know, you had made a comment about me this season that I thought was not nice. It was something about Dorit saying that Sutton bought a horse and that's all she had or something like that. Dorit then says, well, you don't exactly live like the Queen of Sheba. You live on a main road. There's more to life than just having money. You can't buy people. You can't just go around life buying gifts so that they can like you. So that's when Sutton starts to get a little activated and she says, how have I tried to buy anyone? What are you talking about? Who have I tried to buy, honey? And then that's where Dorit starts to say, oh, here she comes. Here she comes. And sorry, y'all. I know this was a very heated moment, but I couldn't stop laughing at Jennifer Tilly eating a piece of candy while this was happening. That took me out. But that was the end of the reunion for part 2. This second part was okay. It wasn't anything crazy. I would say that part 1 was definitely more interesting than part 2. But we still have one more part to go. I think maybe things will heat up in part 3. But you guys, I really don't care about no Morgan or no Kyle. Blah, blah, blah. But you guys, let me know what your thoughts were about part 2. What are your thoughts on Kyle and Dorit going at it over this whole text thing? And what are your thoughts on Dorit going at it with Sutton? What team are you on? Let me know, you guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.